On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast, the first heavily camouflaged Model Y refresh test mule has seemingly been spotted. The $35,000 Model 3 is finally real and it is spectacular. An historically significant unreleased original Tesla Roadster goes up for auction and more. What's happening, friends? Hello from Southern California. Ryan McCaffrey, of course, joining you as I do every single week for Ride the Lightning. It is your weekly Tesla unofficial podcast. This is episode 467, publishing on July 14th, 2024. I say hello from my hotel room here in Southern California. I'm on a business trip this week, and I certainly hope I am not bothering my fellow hotel guests while I record this, because, you know, the walls tend to be thin in your basic hotels, like the one I'm staying in. And I certainly am trying to be respectful here. That's why I'm recording a little earlier than even early. I am recording on Thursday night this week because of a work event tomorrow, my usual recording day of Friday, my usual recording evening of Friday night. I have some work plans. And so here I am Thursday at 6 p.m. on the dot here, getting started. So hopefully nobody's sleeping next door at this point. So, as always, if anything big happens on Friday that I happen to miss because I recorded early this week, I will cover it on next week's podcast. Thankfully, the big news seems to have gone off on Thursday afternoon this week, just about an hour ago from when I sat down to do this, and I will talk about that in just a few minutes. But first, just a couple more reminders on this because the event is coming right up. The X Takeover is imminent. It's happening July 27th and 28th in San Luis Obispo, California at the Madonna Inn, same place it was held last year. You can register for the event at xtakeover.com if you're interested. I'm doing a Ride the Lightning listener meetup, and that is going to happen immediately following the first day's events and festivities. So stay tuned for that. If you've already signed up, stay tuned for the email with the details. I'll be sending that out probably the week of the event, just with the hotel room number and all that stuff. But if you're interested in attending that and you have not already dropped me an email, I just kindly ask that you do email me, and my email address is teslapodcast@gmail.com, so that I have a head count and know how many people are coming, because a couple of very kind listeners and Patreon backers are organizing this and hosting it in their hotel suite. So they're trying to get some drinks for people, just to, it's not going to be like a raging party or anything. But if you are interested in attending and you have not already messaged me, please do so, and I will look forward to meeting you, and for some of you, seeing you again, but for a lot of you, meeting you for the first time at the X Takeover on Saturday, July 27th in San Luis Obispo, California. Okay, let's start this podcast off with some great news. Tesla is now offering a military discount to both current and former U.S. military members and their spouses. Here's the email about this that was sent out from Tesla Corporate to Tesla staff with the details. It is the Sexy Military Purchase Program, S3XY, the most American-made cars for those who have served. To honor those who have served our country, we are launching a military purchase program. Current or former members of the U.S. military and their spouses can now receive $1,000 off the purchase of a new Model S3, X, or Y. The eligibility: military veterans, retirees, active duty, spouses, and surviving spouses. The verification will happen via ID.me. This applies to new Model S, 3, X, or Y, cash, lease, or finance, so however you want to acquire the car, as long as it's a new car, and no limit on the number of vehicles purchased. So if you want to go a full Tesla household and just make the jump and replace, most probably American households have 2 cars. So if you want to do 2 cars, you can do that. Notably, the Cybertruck is not applicable here. You cannot use this on a Cybertruck. I think in time you might be able to, but for now, that is not the case. And $1,000, I'll say, is a really nice gesture, and I'm clearly, obviously, so glad to see Tesla do this. It's not a big hit for them, but $1,000 will make a difference for people. I mean, it covers most of the $1,390 destination fee that Tesla charges on every car these days. And I think they're going to get a lot of takers on this because I guarantee that plenty of these folks will already be interested in Tesla or will have heard good things from their friends or family. So they might think, well, gee, $1,000 off for my service in the military. I want to do that. And as I mentioned a moment ago, I do genuinely think that the Cybertruck will be included in this eventually, but not anytime soon while the production is still ramping up and the reservation backlog is still so long. But kudos to Tesla for offering this to the very wonderful and giving people who have served or are still serving our country. Even better news this week. The $35,000 Model 3 has finally arrived. I know technically it did arrive in 2019. You had to buy the standard range plus for $37,000, and then you'd request to Tesla to software limit the car on the range, and you'd get $2,000 back. But an actual $35,000 Tesla now exists, provided you qualify for the tax credit. So Tesla has introduced a Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive. So it is a $42,000 car or $35,000 out the door if you qualify for that tax credit. It has 363 miles of range, 363, and unlike the base Model 3 with the LFP battery that has lower energy density and thus the performance of the car suffers, not the performance of the battery, the 0 to 60 performance of the car. In this case, there's no suffering. The car does 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds, 4.9 seconds, and I think this is just an absolutely insane value that simply cannot be matched in the industry. If you want an affordable EV, the return of the Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive is an absolute no-brainer. Absolutely nothing else comes close to this. Now, the Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive was the first variant of the car to be released back in 2017, and it was the only Model 3 that you could get until the summer of 2018 when Tesla started offering the dual-motor all-wheel drive long-range and my car, the performance dual-motor all-wheel drive. And then the long-range rear-wheel drive was phased out in, I believe it was early 2019 once the standard range plus came around. And so it has been 5 years since Tesla has offered a single motor long-range Model 3. They are doing it again, and it is, again, I'm stunned at what you get for $35,000. If you qualify for the credit, you're getting a ton of range, 363 miles, and you're getting the safest car in the world, you're getting basic autopilot, you're getting a great sound system. I mean, this is just fantastic. And I have to wonder that if whether or not this might end up being an actual replacement for the base Model 3 at some point. And the reason I bring that up is because, as I've talked about here on the podcast before, and all of you know by now, the LFP battery pack in the base Model 3 is what causes it to not be not qualify, for that tax credit because it is a Chinese-sourced, Chinese-produced pack. And so it just leads me to wonder if Tesla cannot solve that riddle, which I don't pretend to think it's an easy problem, that maybe they'll just eventually just get rid of that base Model 3 and offer this. Now, is it more expensive than the base Model 3? Yes, but only if you don't qualify for the tax credit. So just MSRP to MSRP, this is $4,000 more than the base Model 3. It's $38,000 for the base Model 3, and $42,500 is the MSRP on this return of the long-range rear-wheel drive. So awesome value here. I expect Tesla is going to get a lot of orders for this car. And it kind of brings me back to the same point that the same opinion, I should say, that I had expressed when Tesla did this with the Model Y, introducing the long-range rear-wheel drive that actually has more range than the dual motor. I think for most buyers, this is going to be the way to go. Because, okay, you're losing a little bit of performance that you'd get in the all-wheel drive long-range car, and your traction in the snow is going to be a little less than it would be in the rear-wheel drive car, but the rear wheel will do just fine. If you've got the right tires on the car, you'll be totally fine. And I think for most people, this is going to be the go-to Model 3 now. And I'm curious to hear if Tesla will give us any data to that effect when we get to the next earnings call, which actually won't be too long from now. We'll see if we get any early returns on that. But huge news on the Model 3 this week. You love to see it. All right, next up this week, while we're on the subject of the Model 3, the Quicksilver paint color that, as you heard last week, Giga Shanghai is now producing the new Model 3 in Quicksilver. Well, I said on last week's podcast that I thought North America would get it via, of course, the Fremont factory, which is the factory that makes all the Model 3s for North America. I thought that would be a matter of when and not if. Well, a week has gone by, and it still hasn't happened yet. We don't have Quicksilver available on the Model 3 here in North America, but Tesla has seemingly given us a pretty strong hint. So on Instagram, on the official Tesla account there, in a post about the Quicksilver paint, they said, quote, "Quicksilver for the Model 3 now available in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. More markets coming soon." Well, guess what? There aren't a lot of other Model 3 markets that Giga Shanghai doesn't already serve, so I'm taking this as wink wink confirmation that Quicksilver is indeed coming to North America very soon. If I were to lay a small wager on that, I would bet that it happens in time for Q4 at the latest. I mean, we're only at the beginning of Q3 here, but I think Q4 we're going to have a Quicksilver Model 3 available to us here in North America. Next this week, we're still in the appetizer section of the podcast, by the way. We haven't even gotten to the main course. So, Giga Berlin, I don't know if any of you may remember, this is from a while ago now, back when Giga Berlin first opened, but do you remember when Elon Musk was talking about rave parties happening at Giga Berlin once it opened? Well, it's actually now fully ready and equipped for that. So Tesla posted to its own official @Gigafactories account on X, the Tesla manufacturing account, to show off the quote-unquote rave cave in a short video, just as a for funsies thing. And then, a couple days later, they posted another video of what to my eyes looks like a really, really impressive gym that they have on site at Giga Berlin as well, complete with its own live DJ at this gym. So, Giga Berlin, seemingly a pretty fun place to work. At least Tesla wants you to think that, and they've certainly got some nice amenities there that, to my knowledge, the other Tesla factories don't have. But cool to see that, and It did make me think of one thing, though. One fun thing at a factory that hasn't happened as of yet. You got to go way back in the Wayback Machine for this one. Anybody remember the roller coaster that Elon said that the Fremont factory would get in order to more quickly get you from one part of that huge building to another? Well, sadly, that roller coaster never came to be. But the rave cave is real at Giga Berlin. All right, before I get to those aforementioned main news topics this week, I hope all of you who are very kindly and generously supporting the podcast, giving back to the podcast on Patreon at that $10 per month tier or higher, that's the most popular tier. I hope all of you are enjoying this week's Lightning Round mini episode, which was about the 5 vehicle segments that I think Tesla needs to prioritize getting into next. So I went through 5 vehicle segments that I think Tesla should be jumping into ASAP after the Model 2.5 and the Cybercab are unveiled. So if you're interested in taking a listen to that, please do so if you're already supporting me at that $10 per month tier or higher on Patreon. And if you're not, but you'd like to, the way to do that is to go to my Patreon page, which is found at patreon.com/Tesla podcast. And you can just sign up and join that $10 per month tier. I call it the ludicrous tier. I have all the support tiers on my Patreon named after Tesla drive modes. So join that ludicrous tier, and you will have access not just to this week's Lightning Round, but the other 103 of them as well. There are 104 of them up there now. So all that is waiting for you when you decide to join the Patreon. And I hope that if you have been listening to the podcast for a while, that you enjoy it, you get good information, maybe some entertainment out of it even too, that you might consider supporting me on Patreon at some point. And if you do, like I said, I've got the 104 Lightning Round mini episodes there as a thank you, as well as at that $10 tier, you also get early access to each week's episode, which, since I'm recording on Thursday evening today, you get even earlier access to it than usual. Again, stop by patreon.com/Tesla podcast. Don't forget that annual pledges get a 10% discount. If you are kind enough to make a pledge for an entire year, you'll get 10% off of that. And there is also a 7-day free trial available on that $10 per month tier as well. So hit that Patreon page up. I would be humbled and grateful if you did. We go now to the main story, the headliner for this week's podcast. We appear to have our first Project Juniper sighting. Project Juniper, of course, the reported code name of the Model Y refresh, just as Project Highland was the reported code name for the Model 3 refresh. Project Juniper, first sighting. This comes from the Tesla Model Y subreddit, and a particular user there by the username of Jack, who posted a picture of the apparent test mule that he spotted, and he left this caption, quote, "Running around the Rose Bowl today and saw a masked Model Y parking nearby. Looks like the front is just the same shape as Highland. Last time someone saw a masked Highland was about 6 to 7 months before it was released. Juniper soon? Question mark." Now, for the record as well, the driver's side window was down, but the original poster, in response to someone commenting to that effect on Reddit, said that the interior, the dashboard, was completely covered in the car. So you couldn't really see, couldn't take a look and verify with certainty that it has the same interior as the new Model 3 does. And we've also, by the way, we've seen Tesla do this, meaning cover the dashboard, with other vehicle refreshes. When the Model S refresh was on its way, Tesla would do that when they would take it. In fact, I saw that happen once. I was at the Kettleman City Supercharger, which is not quite halfway between San Francisco and Los Angeles, and a plaid pulled in And it had, and this was before the Plaid had actually come out, and it had the entire dashboard just covered over in this big, like, heavy blanket looking, like weighted blanket looking thing, so that you couldn't really get an idea of what was going on. Now, journalistically, I do have to say that we appear to have the first Project Juniper setting, and I'm obliged to put a question mark on the title of this podcast, and it's because we don't know for sure that this is the refreshed Model Y. So it would be journalistic malpractice of me to just state it as fact. Can't quite go that far. However, I can say as a Tesla fan, Tesla podcaster, and if I may be so bold, Tesla historian, I would bet the pink slip to my own car that this is a Juniper. If you see the picture, which by the way, it's up on my Patreon page because I made this the subject of this week's Patreon poll, which we will get to in just a little while here. So you can see that picture easily if you like. But I would bet the pink slip to my car that this is Juniper because if you look at the picture, the entire front end of this black Model Y, all the way up to the windshield, and also the entire rear end of the car are covered with a black car bra. You cannot see the headlights, you cannot see the taillights. And the hood, you can kind of make out a bit of a general shape. The hood absolutely looks flatter than the current Model Y, and it's level with the headlights, which are both indicators that the Juniper may, in fact, as we'd all expect, right, share the same styling cues with the 3 Fresh, including the headlights and the taillights. As for the timing of this, I have to say I am inclined to agree with Reddit user Jack, who took the photo and posted it online with the caption that I read you. I think Q1 of 2025 seems pretty likely for this, particularly when you remember that earlier this year, Elon did take to X to say that there wouldn't be a Model Y refresh this year, and he had posted that after Tesla stores were getting asked about it so often because of the then just released Model 3 refresh, that the company had to send out official messaging for Tesla store employees to pass along to inquiring customers. I don't think Elon was lying or just trying to deflect. He's not one to do that. I mean, he does get his timelines wrong a lot. Yes, that's true. Or in fact, we're going to hear about one of those timelines that's proven to be off here in a little bit. But as a function of his optimism, he gets these timelines wrong. That's usually the reason, not as, actual lies in responses to questions that he knows the definitive answers to. So I think Q1 is pretty likely here. Now, anyway, there's no chance. One big reason that I think it's going to be Q1 and not Q3 that we're in now or Q4 in October, November, December is that there's simply no chance that Tesla would mess with its best-selling vehicle, which I don't need to remind all of you is also the world's best-selling new vehicle, in its busiest quarter of the year, which of course is Q4, the holiday season. And it certainly isn't coming out this quarter, not after we've only just spotted the first one on public roads. No, it's going to be next year, likely Q1. And the question for me is now, how is Tesla going to handle this? I know I've talked about this before on the podcast, but it's a very important question. Will this be a simultaneous global launch rather than a staggered worldwide rollout, which is what happened with the 3 Fresh? Because not only is the Model Y Tesla's biggest moneymaker, but it's also made in 4 factories around the world rather than the 2 factories that the Model 3 is made in. But I just don't think that you can debut the Juniper, the Model Y refresh, in Shanghai or in Berlin, because word gets around quickly, as already evidenced by the fact that people were asking about a Model Y refresh in stores when it's not in any way, shape, or form been publicly announced by Tesla. So it's just, word gets around quickly, and if Tesla did a staggered launch on this thing, I think it might very well put a drastic slowdown on sales in North America while customers here on this continent wait for the new version. So I think Tesla might try to do this all at once globally, or if that's logistically either impossible or financially not feasible, I think the other way I could see it going is the opposite of what happened with the Highland, with the new Model 3. And that is that Fremont and Texas roll the Juniper out first, and the rest of the world gets it 3 to 4 months later. Now, there's one more thing that I want to mention with this, and I know that opinions and feelings on this vary wildly, but on our monthly Patreon Zoom hangout that we did just last weekend, the first weekend in July, longtime Patreon backer Richard Corley brought this up, and it proved to be a topic of very healthy discussion. And that is this: what if the refreshed Y deletes the gear selector stalk and the turn signal stalk? Could that have a materially negative impact on sales? And the answer is we're going to find out, because there's probably a 99% chance that the refreshed Y will delete the stalks, just as the 3Fresh, New S, New X, and Cybertruck have done before it. So yes, literally every other Tesla now has deleted stalks, thus making it pretty unlikely that the Model Y keeps them. I mean, the fact is we don't have any concrete data, sales data, on the new Model 3 yet, and the reason for that is, I mean, we have production and delivery numbers, but we don't have really good apples-to-apples data of the stalkless Model 3 versus the stalkified Model 3, because those production and delivery numbers from Q1 and Q2 are with an ongoing production ramp for that new Model 3, including the fact that the Model 3 performance only just recently came back smack dab in the middle of Q2. So for this quarter, though, Q3, I think, is where we can actually take a look at the year-over-year comparison with Q3 of 2023 and get a decent idea, though not an exact one, given that the 3 and Y are, of course, lumped together in the production and delivery reports. Ideally, we'd have those two cars separated for a data comparison like the one I'm wanting to do here. But anyway, I do wonder if Tesla's maybe just a little bit nervous about the Juniper and deleting stalks at all, though the reality is I'm probably just inventing that in my own head, because we've seen Tesla time and time again leap forward boldly when they make big changes like this. They're not ones to kind of tiptoe into it and second guess. They tend to just dive head first into this stuff. I mean, if any one person at Tesla is nervous about the stalks being removed from the Model Y, maybe the CFO, who might be like, oh, maybe this could potentially affect things in a negative way. But anyway, to conclude here, if you're interested in buying a Model Y sometime in the next 6 to 9 months, you'll have to make a decision on whether to take the current stock-equipped Model Y or wait for the new one that'll have ventilated seats to help cool you a bit better, along with the accent lighting in the interior, the exterior styling updates, and other improvements, myriad improvements that the new Model Y has. I think it's very possible that we might see deals come through on the outgoing, what will be the outgoing Model Y in late December, end of quarter, end of year. The new, the Model Y, Tesla will know it's on its way out, and all of us listening will know it almost certainly is, even if the general car buying public doesn't really have a firm visual on that yet. All of you will. But I would look for deals on what is still the current but soon to be old Model Y in December. I think there's a it maybe even extending into early 2025 too. You might see some of those deals as Tesla looks to clear out that old inventory once the Juniper really is imminent. Again, I say this because they did the same thing with the Model 3 when it was on its way out to pasture at the beginning of this year. So as I mentioned a moment ago, I wanted to hear what all of you thought about this particular subject, the likely deletion of the stalks and the new Model Y refresh. So the poll question, which by the way is where the picture of the covered up Model Y Juniper test mule is located. It's on the poll this week. So the poll question was, would the lack of turn signal and gear stalks affect your decision to buy a Model Y? There were so many good comments on this that I don't have time to read them all. So again, I encourage you to stop by the Patreon sometime and just check out the comments on this, because there really are, there's both sides to this. Some people are pretty bothered by it. Some people are not bothered at all. And there's, nobody's right or wrong. It's just a matter of, will the greater buying public fully accept this in a way that doesn't negatively impact sales? So that was sort of what I was getting at. And the poll results, 45% of you said, no, it will not affect me. I will buy the refreshed Model Y with or without stalks. 38% of you voted, I'm not in the market for the refreshed Model Y, which is totally fair. But that was it. I mean, it's just 8% of you said, yes, I want the new Model Y, but I'm not interested in buying it without stalks. And then another 8% of you said, I'm undecided. I need to try it without stalks first. So thanks so much to everybody that voted in the Patreon poll this week, and everybody that was kind enough to leave a comment as well. As a friendly reminder, the poll is free to everyone. You can participate in that without having to give me a dime on Patreon. Just stop on by. Usually every Tuesday evening is when the poll tends to go up. And again, that website is patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. All right, before I continue with the rest of the news here, because there is plenty more, I wanted to mention for the third week in a row here, the Chesed Chicago Tesla Raffle. Yes, if you would like to win a Tesla, including a Cybertruck, that is on the table here, or if you'd prefer $50,000 cash, the 10th annual Tesla Raffle from Chesed Chicago is back. I mentioned this last year. I know a number of you entered last year, and it's all going to a good cause. I'm happy to bring this up again this year. So you can win S3XY Cybertruck or $50,000 cash. And whether you win or not, the proceeds from this raffle once again go to a great cause. Chesed Chicago, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping families in crisis. They're funding 80-plus programs and services right now. Their goal is helping families get back on their feet by offering goods and services like food, furniture, job placement, navigating government funding, and much more. For your chance to win, head to ccraffle.com, that's the letter C, ccraffle.com, where you can get $25 off of 2 tickets by using the promo code RTL. You got to hurry, though. The tickets are limited. Only 9,999 will be sold, which will, of course, increase your chances of winning the car. So get your tickets today. And again, ccraffle.com, $25 off of 2 tickets or $500 off of 15 tickets by using the promo code RTL. I hope one of you listening to this wins that Tesla or the cash. Also, my friends at Accelerate Auto and the X-Care Extended Warranty Package, they continue to make that available to you with a discount as well, which I'm grateful for. So if you're thinking about keeping your Tesla for a while, which I'm doing with my Model 3, and you think, you know what, I'd like to get an extended warranty on this thing, but the 2-year, 25,000-mile extended warranty that Tesla offers isn't appealing to me. Well, if that's the case, then I encourage you to visit accelerateauto.com/xcare, which is spelled XCELERATEAUTO.com/XCARE. And there you can customize a plan to your liking. I have a 3-year, 40,000-mile additional extended warranty on my car. You might want to go up to 10 years and up to 125,000 more miles if you want. Anything in between, whatever you want to do, go for it on Accelerate Auto with their X-Care plan. And don't forget to use the discount code LIGHTNING for $100 off your policy purchase. All right, let me scroll back up to where I left off here with this week's news. Here we are. Tesla's next big software update, version 2024.26, has started going out to employees and hopefully thus the rest of us fairly soon. And it's got some notable new features. I saw this written up on Drive Tesla Canada, so I'll start with the one that a lot of you parents have been asking for a long time now. Among these new features included in this update, Teenager Mode. No, unfortunately, it's not actually called Teenager Mode, even though I think that would be a great name for it. But functionally, that's what it is. So Tesla has introduced a comprehensive set of parental controls that can be enabled with a PIN. And that means parents can set a maximum speed limit, limit acceleration to chill mode, and activate safety features like the speed limit warning, automatic emergency braking, and forward collision warning. Additionally, a night curfew feature sends notifications via the Tesla mobile app when the vehicle is driven past the set time. For convenience, these controls can be configured from the vehicle or from the Tesla mobile app. And I have to say, this is huge for parents, huge. And it is going to help them protect their still inexperienced teenage drivers from themselves, mostly. Although certainly from other drivers too. But yeah, I mean, we've all been inexperienced drivers before, right? The only way to not be an inexperienced driver is to drive. And hopefully, you've studied the rules of the road, you've passed your driving test. Maybe you've, like me back in the day, you took driver's ed, but you need the experience to become a better driver. And these parental controls will help you gain that experience in a safer way than if you're just handed the keys to a very powerful, because basically every Tesla is pretty powerful. I mean, even the base Model 3 has still got some kick to it. So the fact that you can set chill mode, you can set the speed limit, all that stuff is huge for parents. Now, that's all, of course, should the parent elect to implement it. I don't know what's best for your children. Every parent knows what's best for their particular kid, but I think this feature should make a lot of parents pretty happy. Also, in this 2024.26 new software version that's going to be rolling out to all of us pretty soon, heading out to employees now, new music apps, YouTube Music and Amazon Music, both being added to the car. I say yay for even more choices. I don't personally use either of these two, but that's okay. Lots of people do. For me, I would say the one audio, music service that I'd still love to see added as a native app to our cars, SiriusXM. I do have a lifetime subscription to that, which has paid for itself several times already. I got that with my last car in 2006. That's how long I've had it. So, that car is long gone, but I can still listen via the SiriusXM app. So all I have to do is log into that on a device. So I'd love to be able to do that in my car because I do like a lot of the music stations on there. I'm a Lithium guy, channel 34, for those of you that have SiriusXM. I like Lithium. I like the Spectrum as well. 28? I think that's channel 28 if I remember correctly. Anyway, my music tastes aside. So YouTube Music and Amazon Music are in. I will cross my fingers that someday we'll get SiriusXM as a native app. Because the S and X used to have SiriusXM in the car hardware-wise. Like you had the physical satellite radio antenna. Now, it can just all be done through the internet. So I'm hopeful and a little optimistic that maybe someday we will get that SiriusXM app. Also in this new update, weather forecast and air quality. Perhaps one of the most requested features is for a weather radar overlay for the navigation map. While Tesla hasn't gone that far, says Drive Tesla Canada, they have added local weather and air quality. These new features have been added to the vehicle status bar alongside the temperature. So that's where you're going to find it. Poor air quality is indicated by an AQI symbol and index value. By tapping the temperature on the touchscreen, drivers can view detailed local weather forecasts, including daily highs and lows and the chance of rain. This is another feature that requires premium connectivity. And to this one, I say yes. Little round of applause. It is helpful to know what the weather is going to be like at my destination, particularly where I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, where you really can go 2 towns away, and the weather this is not hyperbole in any way at all, the weather can be completely different if you go 2 towns away. That's just how the San Francisco area is. Similarly, we've got a climate control revamp. So it's a redesigned climate panel that simplifies comfort settings, and auto fan speed adjustments reduce ambient noise during phone calls. So if your phone is hooked up to the Bluetooth in your car and a call comes in and your AC is blasting on high, it will reduce that fan speed so that you're not having to talk loudly over the sound of the AC fan motor. That's pretty cool. Apparently, lots of other cars have had this for a while, but hey, for me, it'll be the first time I've ever had it in a car, so it's new to me. I'll take it. Still going, by the way, in terms of features. In fact, this is the last one. No, sorry, there's two more. Schedule charge and preconditioning. Tesla says drivers will be able to schedule charging and preconditioning via a redesigned menu or the Tesla mobile app, where you can select a location, set one-off or recurring schedules, and control charging times. So on this one, all I say is it's always good to have more options and more flexibility. And then finally, navigate to sub-destinations. Another new feature is navigate to sub-destinations, and this sounds similar to waypoints, but as Drive Tesla Canada notes, in the release notes, Tesla gives the example of routing to a specific terminal at an airport, which will provide more accurate details. And to that, I think that seems like something that will benefit FSD more than anything else, but that's good. And it's always nice to have more precise, more exact destinations for the car to navigate to. All right, we're still rolling. Again, busy week here, my goodness. Here's a little piece of Tesla history that I personally never knew about, so I thought I'd share it with all of you in case, like me, you find this interesting as well, and I find this very interesting. An unreleased Tesla Roadster performance package mule exists, and even better, it's headed to auction. Saw this one on Teslarati, who writes, the 2011 Tesla Roadster performance package development mule, quite a mouthful there, but it is what it is, features a number of upgrades that cannot be found on any Tesla Roadster that's been sold to date. Obviously, it never came to market in this form, making this quite an interesting piece of Tesla history. Most noticeable is the development mule's exposed carbon fiber body, which is unique to the vehicle. It is also fitted with Terex high-performance brakes, a custom anti-lock braking system, flash tune developed by Continental, a differential from Holing, and a Bilstein suspension with a custom tune. The development mule is also equipped with an 80 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which should give the vehicle more than enough range even by today's standards. It's for sale on Cars and Bids, the online car auction website owned by YouTube car reviewer Doug DeMuro, who I know I've mentioned on this podcast plenty of times before because I like his videos. So the auction, if you're curious, ends on Monday, July 15th at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, if you wanted to look at it or maybe even bid. Well, one of those upgrades was eventually made available to the public, was made available to Roadster buyers, and that was the 80 kilowatt hour battery pack. So if you ever see an original Tesla Roadster and it's got an R80 badge on the back of it, that's what that refers to, is the 80 kilowatt hour battery upgrade is installed in that car. It cost, it's not present tense, past tense. It cost $30,000 as an after delivery thing. Like, this was not an option. This was, you already bought the car, and then it was $30K to get that new larger battery pack if you wanted it. Now, yes, that certainly doesn't come cheap, but it did give the car a rated range of about 400 miles. Though, I have to caveat that 400 was on the old EPA 2-cycle measurement for range that was around back then when the Roadster was originally out. The 2-cycle proved not super accurate, so they switched to the 5-cycle, and in short, the R80 battery pack on the original Roadster will get you over 300 real-world, real-life miles, which is pretty darn impressive for a car from 2012 at the latest. 2008, 9, 10, 11, or 12. That is quite impressive for a car of that vintage. So, I couldn't help but wonder if renowned Tesla Roadster lover and renowned FSD hater, all in one person, Dan O'Dowd, if that guy will end up buying this car. Now, he already owns 3 of the most historically significant Roadsters. I gave you that story, a couple months ago here on the podcast? And that was, he purchased those 3 recent 0-mile barn finds that were found in the shipping crate in China, as well as he also owns 2 other Roadsters. So the guy's got 5 of them, and thus I'd have to imagine that Mr. O'Dowd will be bidding on this performance package development mule with great interest. Now, the current bid, as of me recording this, let me double check it here. I'm going to click this one more time since I made my notes earlier today. Okay, I'm glad I checked. It's now up to $85,000 is the bid. Although, I suppose this is where me recording earlier than I normally do kind of stings me a little bit in terms of being able to provide you the most up-to-date, accurate information, because the bid has gone up $5,000 since this morning, and who knows where it's, we know that these things tend to get fast and furious towards the end of the auction. So if you're listening to this podcast on, Sunday, maybe check it out on carsandbids.com, see where it's at, and if you're listening on Monday morning, then you can watch this auction end, because again, it ends at 10:30 a.m. Pacific on Monday morning. Now, what do I think they're going to go for? If you're curious, my best guess here is that it's going to be $200,000 or more. And the reason that I make that my educated guess is because after the barn find vehicles and what those go for, and knowing that this is also an historically significant original Tesla Roadster, I think it's going to put it at a good premium over just any old Roadster, since the values on those are going up now. So I think $200K plus. I think $200,000 will be the floor for what this car sells for, if it sells, because there is a reserve on the auction. By the way, as an aside, before I move on, I do love the exposed carbon fiber look on this car. There are supercars and hypercars today from various manufacturers that offer this, where you can just get exposed carbon fiber as the finish on the car. And I'm a sucker for it. I think it's pretty beautiful and it's pretty special. If Tesla decided to offer that on the next gen Roadster, assuming, of course, that they're going to do the body in carbon fiber, which, as I sit here today, that would be my best guess, I would be very tempted to take a next gen Roadster with the exposed carbon fiber. But we'll find out. We're still a ways off from that day coming. All right. I've got 2 more stories for you. And again, super busy week here. Tesla Motors Reddit user Game Sins, S-Y-N-S, posted a video that they shot of a Tesla semi-truck. And the reason that this is notable is because this particular Tesla semi was wearing a hat, specifically a LiDAR hat. Now, despite Elon Musk's repeated bad-mouthing of LiDAR, we do know that, because we've seen enough mules running around with manufacturer license plates on the cars, that Tesla does use LiDAR to validate their own system's findings. So this isn't new. There have been plenty of Teslas over the years spotted driving around with those LiDAR rigs on their roofs. What is notable here, though, is the vehicle in question, the fact that it's the Tesla Semi. Why? Well, 2 reasons. 1, no one has ever publicly seen a Tesla Semi with LiDAR validation hardware on it. And 2, more importantly, we have not heard a single word about autopilot for the Tesla Semi since the original unveiling back in November of 2017. There hasn't been an official mention of it by anyone at Tesla publicly since that. So the fact that it never once came up for a while got me thinking, well, I wonder if Tesla's just backburnered autopilot for the Tesla Semi, maybe even for good. Now, fortunately, it seems like that radio silence on autopilot for the Tesla Semi was merely in service of getting the trucks on the road and into early production. It would appear now that autopilot is coming for the Tesla Semi, which I must remind both you and myself that the Tesla Semi is still not even officially in production yet. The units that are out there now and that have been on the roads are kind of like closed beta versions that are only in the hands of a handful of Tesla Semi customers and thus companies. I would have to think, though, that if and when autopilot does come to the Tesla Semi, that it's really mostly a cherry on top for companies that are buying the Tesla Semi, because costs always win the day with that kind of thing, certainly. And we know that the Tesla Semi is proving to be cheaper to operate than a diesel-powered semi-truck. But if you can add the safety of autopilot on top of that, along with your drivers, the drivers of your trucks, staying more awake and more alert, and the reason I say that is because I know that many of you, myself included, have personally experienced how much less physically taxing and physically exhausting a road trip is in a Tesla with autopilot versus in a gas car. That's just, autopilot plus the fact that in an EV you are gliding smoothly along that road rather than having an engine in front of you subtly vibrating constantly for hours on end. It's sort of those two pieces together, which again will apply to the Tesla Semi as well. So I have to imagine that at some point there's going to be a public demo of autopilot on a Tesla Semi, and I can't wait to see it. I wonder if that's going to be the autopilot team's next big challenge after they get through the, if you want to call it a production hell that they're in now on FSD for the passenger car fleet. I've got to figure that once the releases kind of smooth out a bit on FSD, maybe from 12.5 onwards, maybe, that they might turn their attention to autopilot on the Tesla Semi and getting that up and running, because autopilot on a vehicle that size has definitely got to be a big challenge, and not just literally a big challenge, but figuratively as well. All right, the last thing I've got for you this week. Bloomberg is reporting that the Cybercab unveiling has been delayed from August 8th to sometime in October. Now, Bloomberg, in my humble opinion, has a pretty good track record with reporting on Tesla stuff. So if this report is to be believed, and I do believe it for whatever that's worth, I have to figure that either the actual physical hardware prototype or maybe multiple prototypes aren't ready to go yet, or the demo software isn't ready to go yet, or both. I think it's probably just that simple. I doubt there's really anything more to it than that. I mean, I suppose it's possible that Elon saw it and wants Franz to redesign it if Elon didn't like the look of it, but you got to figure that's probably not the case, because if Elon didn't like the look of it, it probably never would have gotten built into a prototype to begin with. So I suspect it's simply that the design team, Franz's team, needs more time to build the prototype, and the software team needs more time to get the software together for the production demo. And hey, guess what? It's no problem. It's fine. We can wait until Tesla is ready to go with this. Nothing is lost by this getting delayed by a couple months. I will say, though, it may not be a coincidence that this is the first time Tesla's ever pushed back a date for a publicly announced product unveiling, and this also happened to be the furthest in advance that Tesla had ever announced a reveal. Probably not a coincidence there. So they need a couple more months. We'll give it to them. No problem. And with that, we come to the end of a very long Tesla news block. I will do just a couple of calls for you here up next, because I know that people like hearing the phone calls. I like hearing them as well. So even though I'm already just about at an hour here, I'll do a couple phone calls for you coming up right after this.
Hi, this is Franz von Holzhausen, and you're listening to Ride the Lightning with Ryan McCaffrey, the Tesla unofficial podcast.
Just time for a couple of quick phone calls here in the Ride the Lightning hotline. A reminder that if you'd like to call in and potentially be featured on an upcoming episode of the podcast, you want to send in your call, there are two easy ways to do that. Either use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software, record your question, please try to keep it to 90 seconds or less so that I can get to as many people each week as possible, and then email that file to me at teslapodcast@gmail.com. Or you can take that same 90-second or less question and call in and leave a message on the Ride the Lightning hotline. It's super easy. The toll-free number that you can call anytime is 1-888-989-8752. Again, that's 1-888-989-TSLA. And if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put onto a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. The first caller this week is Mike from Oregon.
Hey Ryan, this is Mike from Tigard, Oregon. Just outside of Portland, sitting in my Model Y, getting ready to do camp mode tonight. Love that feature. Hey, quick question. I was helping some friends out with the new Model 3 Fresh, little orientation after they bought it, going over all the little tips and tricks. And I noticed they have at the bottom of each door a little tab or tang thing that sticks down that then enters into a slot that's in the door jamb, like it's aligning when the door's shut. And I had my original speculation was that it was around something around side impact to keep that door aligned and not from a repair, but more of a safety issue to keep it in place during a serious impact. But I've had others say something about like the weight of the door with the hinges or the seal. Those don't make sense to me. But I can't figure it out. Can't find it online. Figured you might be able to help out. I'm curious if that's a new safety feature and Tesla continues to up the game there or what it is. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for all you do. Talk to you later.
Hey, Mike, I can indeed help out with this one. Turns out you were absolutely correct. It is a side impact safety feature. But rather than take my word for it, here's Tesla's Vice President of Vehicle Engineering, Lars Moravi, to explain it very briefly for you.
We really try to improve the side impact of the vehicle by creating a stiffer and stronger door structure. We reinforce the hinges here, we reinforce the door latch and striker here, and then we added a catch here at the bottom of the door. And what we do here is we catch the door in 3 places to really resist that impact.
And if you're curious, that clip comes from a video on Tesla's YouTube channel about the upgraded Model 3's design. So, Mike, I hope that helps. Thanks for calling in. And the other caller I will play this week is Brad from Indianapolis talking about FSD transfer.
Hey, Ryan, it's Brad from Indianapolis. Hey, I just wanted to mention on last week's show, somebody was talking about FSD delivery and transfer. I just took a delivery of a new Model 3 replacing a 2018 early version Model 3. Phenomenal car, by the way, just heads and shoulders above the rest. It was all built into the app, the FSD delivery. So as one of your delivery steps, it pinged me to choose which car to transfer from, and then it automatically applied to the new car. And when I picked up the car, they said it's out in the parking lot. Just go unlock it, sign 2 things, drop us the clipboard, and you're off. And man, I was in and out within like 5 seconds. So whatever it was, they've completely fixed it and streamlined it, and it's all integrated into the delivery feature of the app. So just wanted to make that note. Thanks.
Brad, thank you for giving me as fresh of a perspective as you could possibly get on what taking delivery of a Tesla is like in 2024, as well as your very helpful and appreciated note about how painless FSD transfer is. Clearly, the software team was thrown headfirst, I should say, at that particular problem once it was decided last year that FSD transfer would be a thing, and well, they've got it nice and dialed in for the customer now, which is what matters most, and hopefully it's also painless for Tesla on the back end as well. Congratulations on your new Model 3. May it serve you very, very well for many hundreds of thousands of miles. Thank you to everybody that took the time to call in. If I didn't play your call this week, I will hopefully be able to get to it on next week's podcast. Keep those calls coming. I welcome and invite you to call in and participate here in Ride the Lightning. Before I go, there's still more Ride the Lightning to go. A little bit, not too much. I want to start with a pro tip of the week here. It comes from Sean in New York. Go ahead, Sean.
Hi, Ryan. Sean Bloom calling from New York. I wanted to leave a tip on your hotline. I had an issue after the holiday update. The Apple Podcast app, as fantastic as it is, was not allowing me to play certain shows and episodes. They'd show up and they'd be grayed out, and when I touch them, they don't play. And I couldn't figure out why my Tesla wasn't letting me do this. I even made a service appointment, and they pushed new software to the car, and the problem didn't go away, but I never had my service appointment. I figured out yesterday that all I had to do was turn off the explicit content filtering that I had turned on in my settings. So if you click where your EQ settings are on the radio, inside there, under options, is explicit content. If you allow explicit content, it'll play every podcast. I wish it showed me this in the app itself, because I would have done this months ago. I hope this helps other listeners.
That is absolutely a useful tip in case anybody else finds themselves frustrated at that same situation. Sean, thank you very much for that. And if anybody else out there has a good pro tip of the week that you'd like to share with me and your fellow Tesla owners and enthusiasts, call in with it the same way that you call in with the regular Ride the Lightning hotline calls, which I just a few moments ago gave you the 2 methods with which to call in on that. Before I get out of here, I want to mention some friends of the podcast that can hopefully be of use to you, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, maybe next month, but they're here for you whenever you need them. I'll start with abstractocean.com. They've got a million great aftermarket accessories for all the Teslas, more Cybertruck accessories coming online all the time, but S, X, 3Y, whatever you got, they have got you covered, whether it's upgraded interior lighting kits, that's a big one for them, the 4th generation tempered glass screen protectors, just all sorts of stuff, both fun and practical. You got to take a look, click on whichever car you have, go to abstractocean.com, and when you get to checkout with all the goodies that you liked in your online shopping cart, use the coupon code RTLPodcast to get 15% off of your first order. That coupon code again is RTL Podcast. That's all one word, no spaces. The Snap Plate offers a discount too. If you want to get one, go to everyamp.com/RTL and use the coupon code RTL. And then you just have to decide whether you want the Snap Plate or the Snap Plate Plus. Both are the nice, clean, minimalist front license plate frame design. They are there to basically not be a thing. It's like it's there to get the plate up and make it legal and make it secure. It's on there securely and it's on there, it's not going to go anywhere. But it's not some big thing with like a big, border around it or a big thick thing behind it. It's just a nice, clean, minimalist design, which I'm a big fan of. So if that sounds good to you and you either want or legally are required, or both, to put a front license plate on your car, get yourself the Snap Plate or the Strength Optimized Snap Plate Plus, and you can get both of them from everyamp.com/RTL. Don't forget the discount thanks to the coupon code as well. That coupon code again is RTL. Budget Safe Solar. As the summer months roll on here, I love looking at how much solar power I'm generating each day. My phone's not handy, or I would check. Not that, I don't know, none of you care anyway. It doesn't matter. Every roof is different. Every system is a different size and what have you. But I've been enjoying looking at that every day during the summer here and just watching all those rays of sunshine translate into kilowatt hours that I feed back to the grid, and some of them I feed into my car. It's been great. So if you're considering solar, I do humbly urge you to keep Budget Safe Solar on your short list. Drop them a line, get in touch, get a quote, see what you think. I wouldn't tell you to just go to Budget Safe Solar. Solar is a huge purchase. I mean, it's tens of thousands of dollars. So, you're going to want to shop around, I'm sure. I'm sure you'll want to check Tesla Solar. Again, I did. And if Budget Safe Solar ends up working out for you, great. Go to budgetsafesolar.com, and all I humbly ask is that if you do proceed with an installation with them, use the referral code RTL. If you're in or going to be in the greater San Francisco Bay Area, which presently I am not, but I will be when I get done with this work trip, if you and a car you love are in the greater San Francisco Bay Area, treat it to a spa day at Immaculate Reflections. Jeff McGovern, the owner and master detailer there, so talented, so dedicated as well, just such a good guy. Whether you want to do paint correction to get all the flaws out of your paint finish, get it looking as good as it can. Maybe you want to do ceramic coating because, you're sick of waxing your car twice a year. Ceramic coating will last 3 to 5 plus years. I'm getting onto the 5 plus part at this point. Maybe you want to do paint protection film on some or all of the car. Whatever the case may be, reach out via his website, which is irdetailing.com. And when you do reach out and schedule some service, mention that you're a Ride the Lightning listener and you will be given the Ride the Lightning listener discount. Thank you so much to Jeff for continuing to offer that to the Ride the Lightning audience. Finally, the Patreon I mentioned a little while ago, so I'll keep it brief here, but I do put a lot into this podcast every week. I hope it comes across. I do it even when I'm traveling for work, as I am right now. I feel very strongly that it's very important. If you're going to support me, I have to earn that from you. And one of the ways that I do that, I think a big way, there are multiple ways here, and they're all important. But one of the big ones for me, in my mind, and maybe you agree, is that I've got to show up every week. And I'm proud to say that I do. 467 weeks in a row here. So anyway, if you at some point feel it, see it in your heart to support the podcast, to give back a little bit, you can do that through Patreon. And again, my page there is patreon.com/Tesla podcast. Patreon spelled Patreon. The support tiers start at just $5 a month. And in return for that $5 a month, you will get early access to each week's episode. If you step up to that $10 per month tier that I talked about earlier, you'll get the early access each week, and you'll get access to the entire library of those lightning round mini episodes. If you go higher than that, you'll get your name shouted out. You'll get invited to the monthly Patreon Zoom hangout. It goes on and on. So there's a bunch of stuff up there. Check it out at patreon.com/Tesla podcast. All right. Most of you get the podcast via your favorite podcast service, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, etc. Just click the follow button or the subscribe button, totally free. It just means that every time there's a new episode, which is every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, that you will get notified via a push notification that that's ready for you. So why not do it? Then you don't have to remember to go get the new episode every week. You can follow me on X and or on Instagram. I have the same username on both, and that username is DMC_Ryan. You can also email me anytime. My email address is teslapodcast@gmail.com. And before I go, a quick shout out, quick hello to the upper tier Patreon backers. These are the extra generous folks who they get a bunch of perks. One of them is me shouting them out at the end of each week's show, as I will do right now. Thank you to the newest Maximum Plaid backer, Jeff Brown. Jeff sent me a very nice email. Really appreciate that, Jeff. Thank you for your support. Enjoy all those lightning rounds. You've got a lot of them to dig into. I hope you enjoy some of them. Hopefully you enjoy all of them. But anyway, thanks to the rest of the Maximum Plaid crew, Jonathan Wales, Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, Nick and Tony, the Galpin family, Ryan from New York City, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Brett Libano, Patrick Wisniewski, Gil Cabrera, Todd Badger, Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley, Michael Williams, Will Stedman, Justin Perez, Jeremy Harris, Chris Beach, Tom Mills, Corey O'Donnell, Aaron, John Cody, Joel Sapp, Paul Casarino, Richard Corley, Chris Osborne, KB, Adam Lavoie, ContactOneCallCenter.com, Jason Chalukas, Travis Krenzel, Bruce Otterstein, Tom Behan, Josh Pennington, John from Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Sean Tisdale, Dustin Hart, Michael Gallo, Derek Finley, Charles Clement, Rav, Adam Christie, and Damon Klein. Big shout out as well to the Roadster in Space tier backers. They are Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Neil Weaver, Jackson Wallace, Rolf and Jennifer Evers, Howard Anthony Smith, Victoria Iacovetto, Tesla Hitchhiker 42, Carol Weston, Robert from Near Philly, Kristen Rumble, American Home Contractors, GetAmber.com, and Doug Carey. Finally, The grandfathered in plaid level supporters, big thanks to them as well. They are George Cassiopo, Logan Willis, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, Dory and Steve Guberman, the Tesla Owners Club of Taiwan, Ron Lee, Charlie Gillespie, Dennis Peak, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jerome Strack, Jamie Dalton, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Ish, not Elon Musk, Peter, and the Bear Boys of Colorado. And that'll wrap it up here for a very fun Ride the Lightning episode 467. Almost entirely super fun topics this week. I'm very pumped about that long-range rear-wheel drive Model 3 coming back. I think that's going to be huge for the company. I think that's going to be a very popular item. I think there are going to be a lot of happy customers out there. 363 mile range Model 3. Whew, for 35 if you qualify for the credit. That's awesome. That is so cool. You love to see it, and that'll do it. I'm done here. I got to get some dinner, actually. That's what time it is. All right. Thank you all so much. Happy electric motoring, my friends, and I will see you all again next week.
Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk. The guy founded PayPal and Tesla, and people are like, yeah, but he's a troll and a bad dad. I'm like, so was mine. He did nothing to fight climate change. Also, have you been in a Tesla? Have you been in a Tesla? My buddy let me drive his Tesla. I laughed out loud at how fast it went. Been clinically depressed my entire life, on dozens of medications, in a Tesla for 13 seconds, cured forever.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.